Welcome to the Lakers News Fan Report. I'm jumping in with clean information, precise context, and zero fluff. I'll sketch the path from rumor to reality, map the money and the rules that either unlock the door or slam it shut, show how Brown's two-way punch would change the way we scored the rim and defend the wing, and then, right when it matters, put on the table the one scenario that makes this more than a thought experiment. Stay with me because the twist only pays off if you've got the facts lined up before the reveal. This isn't a fantasy. It's a plan that either survives the CBA or dies in it. And I'm not here to sell fairy tales. I'm here to tell you what's live. Here's the brief, fast and tight so you know exactly what ride you're on with me. First, who Jaylen Brown is now. Not the prospect, not the almost, but the 2024 Finals MVP version with a downhill first step, a snatchback that punishes soft hips, and a defensive frame that survives in April and May. Second, what Boston's financial and competitive posture really means this season, with second apron pressure and a franchise managing star health, rotation churn, and the true cost of contending. Third, how the CBA has turned just match the salaries into a maze, especially for teams above the aprons, what you can and cannot do, and why it matters for Los Angeles specifically. Fourth, the basketball fit next to Luka Doncic and LeBron James, how you stagger usage so everyone eats, and why Brown unlocks specific actions we can spam without being predictable. Fifth, the actual trade architecture that could get you from today's roster to a closing five with Brown in it, without pretending that Boston would hand him over for vibes and a handshake. I won't give away the final card yet. I'll earn it, and then I'll play it face up. Let's set the table with the player, because if the player doesn't justify the pain, you never even open the spreadsheet. Jaylen Brown at his peak is pressure, live dribble pressure, rim pressure, transition pressure, and last 5 minutes pressure. He's built like a safety and moves like a wing, with enough handle to live in that in-between space where rotations crack. You're not getting him for a single elite trick, you're getting him for a portfolio. Force at the point of attack, conscious work off the ball defensively, real rebounding for a wing, and playoff speed scoring that doesn't depend on a screen to survive. He can run your second unit as the primary scorer for 6-minute pockets, and he can be a finisher next to a heliocentric star when it's time to simplify. The jumpers will have peaks and valleys, every power wing does, but his floor is secured by the way he drives, the way he relocates, and the way he punishes single coverage when your second playmaker bends the weak side. That's the basketball reason we're even talking. Now Boston, this isn't a panic in green segment, it's reality math. They've been living over the apron, they paid to win, and they earned the right to decide their own speed. But there's a new normal in the league. The second apron doesn't just tax your wallet, it taxes your options. Every veteran decision cascades, and when you've got massive money tied to your top two and real dollars allocated to winning role players, you can't just add your way out of a hole. You have to choose a path. Double down on the core and put development on steroids, or redistribute salary and reset the curve without dropping your competitive floor. That's why league people keep half an eye on Boston, not because they want to blow it up, but because they have to stay nimble while managing health timelines and apron rules. Brown is the crown jewel of that conversation. He is a star they would only move if the return is overwhelming and strategic, not cosmetic. And trading with the Lakers adds a rivalry surcharge. Both sides know it, so the price gets sharper before we even talk fit. Let's open the CBA black box, because this is where half the barbershop talk dies. For teams above the second apron, the rulebook got mean. You don't just match salary, you're boxed into strict windows and tighter math. Aggregation is the killer. If you're above the second apron, you can't combine a bunch of mid-salaries to reach a big number. That matters because Jaylen's number's not small. In practical terms, the Lakers can't just stack 3 or 4 contracts, tape them together, and call it a day. You're looking at either a 1-for-1 anchor salary going out, or you build a 3-team framework where a facilitator club packages their own big contract headed to Boston while your mids go elsewhere. On top of that, Brown's deal includes a trade bonus, kicker, that complicates incoming cap math unless it's already at the limit, which can nudge his number right when you're trying to thread a needle. And for the Lakers specifically, the pick landscape is thin but not empty. You've got a long out first you can move, you've got swaps you can leverage, but you don't have a vault full of near-term firsts to bury another team in paper. Translation: a Brown deal is less about quantity and more about quality and creativity. So why even consider it? Because the fit next to Luka and LeBron lives in the real world. Picture it. Early offense, 2-out action on the slot. Luka comes off a ghost flare with Reeves lifting weak side, and Brown knifes into the seam as the low man chooses between tagging the slip or protecting the rim. That's 2 to the ball and a layup or a corner 3. In the half court, you get Boston-style strong side counters with an LA twist. Spain pick and roll with Brown as the back screener becomes hell, because if the big stays home on the roll, Brown's popping to a clean elbow. If the guard switches onto the roller, you have a cross match and Luka instantly hunts it. End of quarters, LeBron as a short roll playmaker turns Brown into the hammer finisher he already is. End of games, Brown is your primary on the opponent's top wing, lets Luka rest possessions on the easier assignment, which preserves legs for offense, the thing that killed us late in too many fourth quarters. Put simply, Brown increases our margin for error. We don't have to be perfect to be good, and we don't have to be lucky to be dangerous. Defensively, the value is ruthless and obvious. With Brown taking the toughest wing and Marcus Smart taking the nastiest rep, you shield Luka from the most energy-sapping chores and let LeBron choose his spots when he's managing minutes. Add the bigs, Ayton anchoring in drop or switching selectively, and your base defense tightens without gimmicks. Throw in branch trap angles we've copied from the league's best, soft traps on the sideline, scram switches to get Luka out of the post, tag and release rotations that turn a would-be dunk into a reset. Brown's strength and balance are what make it sing. When he gets into your chest, your footwork has to be textbook or he just rides you out of your spot. That shows up in playoff possessions when whistles get swallowed. Lakers basketball with a wing stopper isn't just nostalgic, it's modern winning.
Now, the ugly part. What it costs. From Boston's perspective, you don't move a finals MVP caliber wing from mid-tier contracts and a fan base's dreams. You want the kind of pick that keeps your arc flexible, something far out that could age into gold if the other team's timeline wobbles, and you want a blue-chip player or a blue-chip pathway. From the Lakers' side, the single clean path in a second apron world is sending out one big contract or engineering a 3-team puzzle where your mids land in a place that has the room or the appetite to eat them, while Boston gets a singular piece that they can sell to their locker room and their season ticket base. You also need to mind Brown's trade bonus. Even if some or all of it doesn't apply because of max constraints, you still plan for worst case to avoid getting caught $500,000 over a line you can't cross. The deal can't be heavy on outgoing pieces we actually need if the goal is to win now with Luka and LeBron. We can't gut the rotation and call it a contender build. This is a surgical strike, not a yard sale. What about the market around us? There are teams with more immediate picks to offer, young wings they can spare, and less emotional baggage with Boston. New York always has volume, Oklahoma City can build 3 trades before breakfast, and Miami will never be scared of a price if it leads to May. The leverage for Los Angeles comes from something else. Fit with our stars, market power, and the fact that Brown would walk into a role that maximizes him without burying him under heliocentric load. If you're Boston, that matters. You don't want to ship your guy somewhere he becomes the third option and fades. Here, he becomes the second scorer most nights, the first scorer some nights, and the defensive template every night. In raw basketball terms, it's almost too clean. That's why people talk. Let me layer in the timeline because the calendar is a weapon. The in-season window tightens everyone's resolve. Players who signed in July get trade eligible in mid-December, a chunk of the league opens in January, and the deadline turns quiet calls into loud decisions. If you're the Lakers, you keep the Brown framework warm through that entire stretch without blinking or leaking. If you're Boston, you listen to the league the way a surgeon listens to a heartbeat, calmly, clinically, with full control. For this to tip, the trigger is rarely a headline. It's a week in January when someone gets nicked, or a 7-game stretch where a team proves what it still needs, or a front office staring down a tax bill that doesn't match a roster's health. I don't have to invent drama to sell you this. I just have to be honest. This kind of deal is always born in the quiet, then signed in a sprint. I promised a basketball view that doesn't soft-pedal the risks, so here they are, blunt. You pay a rivalry tax. You probably overpay in picks. You might lose size if a big salary is your exit ticket. You could thin out ball handling if the mids who leave are the connective tissue of the second unit. And you will be tight-belted by apron rules after the fact. And there's on-court risk. Brown's handle can get loose in traffic against heavy hands, and if the jumper is cold in a series, you need your scheme to produce paint touches in other ways. That's why the Luka synergy isn't optional. It's the oxygen. The flip side is the upside. Pressure-resistant scoring, real wing defense, gravity that doesn't rely on a single shot type, and a closer that doesn't need a play called to get you a good one. We've watched series hinge on that exact recipe. We've also learned the hard way what happens when we don't have it. All right. Time to turn the card. What's actually live right now is a structure, not an agreement. A three-team concept that removes the aggregation handcuffs. The Lakers send out mid-salaries and a far-out first with flexible protections to a facilitator who converts that package into a single Boston-friendly contract. Think an all-star adjacent piece on a deal that lands under star money but over role player money, plus one young rotation player who doesn't need the ball. Boston receives that single big contract in the young piece. The facilitator takes the useful Lakers mids and a pick. The Lakers take Brown. That's the only version with clean lines under the apron rules without touching our top-of-roster drivers. If Boston says no because the return doesn't match their internal valuations, or because timing isn't right with their health curve, nothing happens. Full stop. If they open the door an inch, financially, competitively, or philosophically, this is the pathway that actually breathes. If you dropped in late, here's the heartbeat of why I even entertain the cost. Los Angeles with Jaylen Brown becomes a team that can win slow and win fast on both ends. You can grind a 92-possession rock fight or blow open a third quarter with 3 straight stops on the wing and 2 live ball buckets. You protect Luka's legs in March and unleash them in May. You take the swing that fans remember for a decade because it clarifies who you are. A stars and wings franchise, not a patchwork rotation chasing a hot week. The cap pain is real, the pick pain is real, and the rivalry pain will singe your eyebrows. But some pain is the price of becoming scary again. I'll land the plane clean. My analysis tonight, I pursue this aggressively, but intelligently. If the facilitator path materializes and the price is a far-out first plus swaps and rotation salaries that don't hollow the core, I'm in. If the ask creeps into double first territory with no protections, or if the outgoing is a structural pillar we can't replace, I pivot. Brown is a multiplier here. His presence raises Luka and relieves LeBron while feeding Austin Reeves the cleanest catch-and-shoot diet he's ever had. If it's there in January, press the button. If it's not, don't fake brave. We've done that before. Now, I want to hear you, and I mean it. Would you send a 2031 or 2032 first, light protections only, and loop a third team to consolidate salaries if it lands Jaylen Brown without gutting defense or size? Would you keep Ayton at all costs or float him only if Boston demands a 1-for-1? Where do you draw the line on swaps? Drop your take below. Right now, I read everything and I bring your best arguments back into the show. If you want more of this blend, film, finance, and fan heartbeat, subscribe, like, hit the bell. I'll keep you updated the second anything shifts, and I'll always tell you what's real, not just what trends.